Welcome to Captive Audiences, where we discuss sacred art and projects of passion shared in person. I'm your host, Laura Bartnick. So I'm sitting here with Connie Zimmerman, who started an organization called Colorado Homeless Families in Arvada in 1986 and 87. And we're just going to talk about how God used her and some of the stories on how that organization began and how it developed, and some of the stories about the building of the buildings and the repurposing of them for people who are in need, as well as some of the people's stories.
I was going to be a music major. Then it wasn't quite what I wanted. Then I was going to be an art major. Wasn't quite what I wanted. Then I was so bored. What should I do with my life? It's not what I want. Then this thought came to my mind. Why don't you ask God? He made you. No, he'll send me to Africa to become a missionary. I don't want to go there. Let's see, what else? And I thought, well, on the other hand, I've tried everything else, and I'm on my third year of college, and I don't like anything.
Okay.
Everything. I get all the basics done, and I didn't know what I was going to do because I would get into it. Uh-huh. And so then I decided to ask God. So then I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Mm-hmm. If you want me to go to Africa, I will. I prayed about a day or two, and all of a sudden, a social worker? You want to be a social worker? Then I remember my dad said, Connie, you would be a good social worker, but I didn't want to. It just didn't sound good.
Yeah.
But I said, well, I did ask him, and he did make me. Yeah. So then the next quarter, I put like 4 or 5 sociology classes, and once I loved it.
Oh,
I liked
really?
to hear about poverty, homelessness, poor, culture. I had to write lots of research papers, and I did it on aspects of poverty. This is when I was in college. I graduated, and then I had children.
Okay, so you had already decided that since God made you, he would know what you would be good at, and you had already majored, but then you had children. You got married and had children, and so now you're back tasking God with
why he wasn't following through.
Okay.
And then, so he was saying, as I needed to seek him.
Sure.
For what I needed to do in life, and I needed to listen to him.
Yeah.
And that I wasn't an independent person. And so then I thought, I better hurry up and start cleaning off this dresser, because you know how you have paper on your dresser, because I'm going to be working. And so I went through and I saw this World Vision magazine, and I'm looking at the World magazine, and this story caught my eye. And it was about a young girl, I think it was in Thailand or something. She was in an Orient part of the world. And World Vision had found her in a prison and was telling her about Jesus. And we're talking to her and befriending her. And she told him, as a young girl, her father gave her away to be a prostitute because they were starving.
Oh, yeah.
And during that time, one of the guys had, they gave her drugs and everything. When she woke up, another guy had died. Somebody had stabbed him. And they said that she did it, but she didn't.
Of course not.
And so they put her in prison.
Oh.
And so she was there, had no hope in life.
Right.
But it's amazing how God sent World Vision to tell her that Jesus loved her and had a plan for her life. And then they helped her get out. And then they helped her find out that she was innocent.
Yeah.
And then they helped her with a job. Mm-hmm. And I was telling this wonderful story. I thought, oh, that's such a great story. And then when I was putting the book down, the Lord spoke and said he wanted me to work in prisons and, people that were locked up too. And so I thought it was a prison. So I said, okay, Lord, I'll do it. You told me to do it, I'll do it. And so I called the Denver police, the prisoners, and see the jails. And somebody said, we really don't need no volunteers here. But Jefferson County Juvenile Hall, they could use some volunteers down there. And so I called, and they said, sure, I could come. And that's where Frank Trueblood, he was a volunteer for that as well. So I met him down there.
So wait, Frank Trueblood was working for the youth detention center?
He was down there as maybe a volunteer.
Okay.
He was, I don't know if he's working. He was a prison, so he was working maybe among the prisons and the youth. And these kids were locked up.
Sure, okay.
Because they had done things. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But I said, okay, God told me to do it. I'm going to do it. And so what do you do? I got lots of tracts about how about giving your life to the Lord.
Yeah.
That we bought. And then I told my friend Gay Anderson at church, and she says, Connie, that sounds great. I'd like to. I said, yes, please come, because I was going to go by myself. I'm just going to do what God says, and no big deal. Yeah. So she said she would go, and so we bought it. And so I bought donuts. We had about 75, 80, because there was like 80, 100 kids, youth kids, that were locked up.
Okay.
And so I went down there. I just stood up and told the kids that God had a plan for their lives, that He loved them. And then I gave my testimony that as a young person, I was very depressed and didn't know who I was in life. And then when I found Jesus, He gave me a whole new world, and how my life became very meaningful. And that, I gave them verses in the Bible and told them that Jesus loved them, had a plan for their life. They wanted to give their life to Him. He would fill them up with His Holy Spirit and give them a purpose and a plan. And He would forgive them and give them eternal life. Just kind of doing all those things.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I asked them if they would. We had a sheet to put their name down for prayer, and then I asked them to hold their hands up. I prayed for them, and I did. And they all put their hands up.
They all.
It seems like most of them put their hands up. It was really amazing. It was just and to receive Jesus Christ, because I just prayed and I asked them if you wanted to. They put their hands up, and they put their names down. We gave them the pamphlets, and so we went every other Friday night for I think a year or two. We did that. And then we would see Frank down there sometimes. And then I can't remember how long we were at the exact things. But then one day, people were becoming Christians.
Yeah.
And then they called and said, Connie, we're not going to have different organizations come in. We really appreciate what you're doing, but I think they're just going to let Youth for Christ handle it. So just one organization, that way they'd have the same one and not have different people from different churches.
Yeah.
It's okay with me. Hear that, God? I don't have to do that no more. No. But every time I went there,
you had been faithful, and then the Lord replaced you with another organization, freed you up for something new.
Right. And then, but I have to say, every time we come back, we were so happy. And then Gay Anderson's daughter was a singer, so she would go and she would sing songs about Jesus. And then we'd do that. But it was amazing. So after we did that, but as soon as, within a week, I got a job. I want to tell you somebody from my church called me, this man. And it's amazing. He said, my wife works at a nursing home on Colfax downtown. They have 3 openings down there.
Okay.
And so I was thinking, that would be great to be the activity director, because that was one of them. So I went down there and put my application. So she hired me 2 nights as a security and then 2 nights working in medical records.
Okay.
The lady in
So you were part-time security guard?
2 nights. And I went work at 3 to 12.
Oh no! Wow, terrible shift.
I know.
Okay, and then 2 days doing.
Then I would go to work.
Bookkeeping?
Yeah, I went to work. It was in medical records.
Oh, okay.
You know how they put all these details.
Sure.
You file them, and you make sure there's an order.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. But one night when I was working, and it's like the Lord told me that somebody was in the boiler room, because part of my security was I had to check everything. At 12 o'clock when everybody left, that's when they locked. I made sure, went around the doors, made sure all the doors, maybe it was like 9 or 10, but I left at 12. I locked all the doors, and then I had to go down to the broiler room. They should have had someone go with me.
Oh, yeah.
And checked out the basement, but anyway, I was brave. I would hit him on the head or something, but I just did, so I went down there and turned the lights on, make sure everything's okay, and then it went up. But it's like the Lord told me somebody was in the building.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I said, okay, God, that means you got to take care of us. Someone's here. You got to be with us. Yeah. So as I went down the boiler room, the security deal showed a man running out of the building, the security light, the security camera. So
there was somebody down there.
There was somebody in there.
Yeah.
And they left. I don't know why they fled, but that was nice. They did.
Maybe because you said, Lord, you got to go with me.
And you got to protect me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so then during that time, it was a pretty good job. But then they wanted me to work all nights from 3. They were going to give me a shift from 3 to 12. I go, it's not fair. My little girl, she goes to school. My little boy, I'll never see them. 3 to 12. Yeah. And then work weekends too. I go, that's not right. Yeah. So I was really praying. I said, God, that's not right. It really, really needs something else. Yeah. And they said, well, it's too bad. Either you do that or quit, And I said, God, if you ever let me have a company, I'll always work with the moms so they can take care of their kids.
Yeah.
and so I was really praying that all of a sudden I saw something in the ads at Sunny Acres where they wanted a manager for the 5-story building and a coordinator for all the transportation. And so I said, oh God, that would be great. What's your experience? And so this one lady who was head of medical records, there was a lot of things. I said, can I please do this week so you could say that I do it? So I can put it down on my resume.
Right.
There are certain things. And she said, yeah, go ahead. So then I could be honest and see I did it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I did it, and they had quite a few interviews, but I was selected. I was so grateful.
Yeah.
Because it was a wonderful place, and I learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that was some of the things that in order to run Colorado Homeless Families.
Yeah.
Because I managed a 5-story building, took care of all the transportation.
So God prepared you. He prepared you. He even prepared your heart, because in the bad situation, He gave you almost a calling for women in a similar situation. And so that you had a focus and a desire. You specifically asked Him for that opportunity. If you'll give me my own company, I will always work with the
and I always
women.
did.
So interesting.
I always did. So my staff, they had kids in school. Okay, no problem. My kids, I need to take them to school. Okay, you can come in a little bit, an hour later. You want to go to school part-time? Okay, all right, I'll let you.
Yeah.
And then I would just have, because I wanted, if they were happy and they were able to take care of their kids, then they're going to work better for me.
Right.
But I've been a mother that worried about my kids and this and that, and it's not good.
Right.
I wasn't with my kids, and
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I worked for Sunny Acres. I loved it. One of my favorite jobs. I thought I would always be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me how God used that to move you. What actually happened? How did God call you into Colorado Homeless Families?
Okay. So I'll just say a little bit at Sunny Acres.
Yeah.
And some of the things I learned at Sunny Acres, which helped me, is the residents. They had all these residents, and they came into the community when they were 55 years old.
Okay.
And they were independent. It was a very large community. They had their own they could live on little cottages, or they could live in apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, which I had 5-story buildings. And then they had a nice dining room, which they had meals in, lunch and supper. And I loved all the residents. They were so sweet and so neat. And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And, of course, they had problems putting their batteries in their ears and, the earphones and doing little things. And I would just do it for them. And they were so grateful. And I just felt, if you have 100 grandmas around you that love you.
That's a pretty good life.
That's a pretty good life. And they made me feel so important and so valuable. But what was neat about there is that they had all these special volunteer committees. And they ran a little grocery store. So the residents did not have to get on the bus every time. They would just go to the grocery store, but it was the residents who ran it.
Okay.
They had a committee, and they bought certain food, and different ones took turns being there to volunteer, and people would come and buy groceries. Then they had a committee. They had committees all over. They had a garden committee, and they had, they just had probably 6 or 7 committees. But it was neat because it's so important. When I had Colorado Homeless Families, is that I had the residents volunteer their time and do something.
So you had a model. You learned from that model how to build your community.
That's exactly. I saw a model.
Interesting. Yeah.
How the stores were run. They were by volunteers.
Yeah.
And the people, they didn't have to work too hard, but that way they got a chance to get out and see their friends
serve
and
each
develop
other.
and to serve.
Yeah.
And so that was a very important
piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
So I thought I would be there forever. And then there was a place for the director was above me. But if you were a director of a resident service, you would be able to take care of not only my building, but the residents that are they're transitional.
Yeah.
Kind of like transitional. Then there's also a place where they're more handicapped.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 3 different levels.
Okay.
And so I thought that would be wonderful because I love these people. They're so great. They're so wonderful. But one of the things that I didn't tell you it was about doing your tax exemption.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after I got Bob in, I knew I had to hurry up and do the tax exemption.
Yeah.
And then it was my only vacation. I had 2 weeks my poor kids, they stayed at home, and I wanted to take them to the park, but all day I worked on all week, that crazy tax exemption.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the forms, how to do it was then free. You could send it in. You didn't need no money for nonprofits, which was a miracle.
Yes.
But so when I looked at it, I was reading, according to this law, fill out so-and-so, according to this law. I go, what is this? And so I don't even know what this is about. So I looked at it and I go, okay, I'm filling in my name, filling in, RB Ranch, because that's what it was then.
Yeah.
Connie Zimmerman, my address, everything I knew, phone number. And then I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, you're going to have to send somebody to help me because I don't even know what it is about.
Yeah.
So I folded it up.
Which law? Which law?
It had said, according to this law, so-and-so, according to that law. I go, what? I don't know what they're talking about.
So you didn't fill out either one?
All I did is filled out. There's about 10 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 15 or 20. It was a book.
Oh.
Because you're trying to acquire a tax exemption.
Sure.
So they had lots of pages in it.
Yeah.
But they were all according to different laws.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm doing what I could.
Oh, this is the different kinds of 501c3s. Or, yeah.
1C3, yeah.
And there's different kinds.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So all I did is did what I could. Name, address, RB Ranch, for stuck it underneath the bed. If you want me to do this, you're going to have to somebody to help me. Mm-hmm. Have someone come to my house and help me or something. Mm-hmm. So it was just a couple days later, and Frank Trueblood called and said, Connie, it's been strange. The last 2 days I've had you on my mind. And I haven't seen you for a while since we don't work. And I just wanted to call and see what you were doing. So I said, I'm trying to start this nonprofit, Colorado Homeless Families. No, RB Ranch, because it was then RB Ranch. But I don't know how to fill out this tax exemption. It's absolutely crazy. He goes, I'd be glad to help you. I know how to do that. I've done a couple of them. And, I'm the director of my organization. I'd be glad to help you. So he came along, got that done. I don't think I've seen him or heard from him since. Really? Yes.
So this is pretty much the whole business and the whole start of everything.
When I was looking out of my office, the window, because I acquired the other land. I just acquired it. I didn't know why, but I did because I felt like I should. So I got the land. And then one day, Gene Jacobus called me and told me to come to that meeting.
Yes.
So then I came.
Okay.
And I was and there's lots of all these nonprofits. They were heads of nonprofits.
Heads of nonprofits.
The total of all their needs came up to a total of 700. No, it was over 700,000.
Oh, and so they could have parceled out 500,000, but they didn't have 700,000 to parcel out.
Right.
So everyone was going to get a little piece of the pie.
So they said, you guys need to get together and figure out what you need to do. Some of you can work together.
Okay.
Maybe reduce your request. And so what I started doing is looking at all the money that I could raise, like all the grants I could raise.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, Lord, I'm going to go sit at the table and I'm going to ask, and I'm not going to say anything. If you want me to have the 200,000, you're going to have to give it to me or something. But I'm not going to say anything. If they want to take it away, they can or whatever. But I put 200,000 down, and that's what I think I need. So we went around. As they were going around the second meeting, some people said, well, I'm working with so-and-so, and we reduced it. And then this one person says, well, what about RB Ranch? They need to come down a little bit. We're all coming down. And the city
of Arvada?
Ed Talbot, city of Arvada.
Okay.
He says he requested $100,000 for an elevator for a senior citizen deal, but he spoke up and he said, no, let Connie have her 200,000. I need 100,000 for the senior citizen. But if you need to eliminate mine, you can. But let her have the 200,000 because we need families. We need homes for homeless families. And so they went around, and I had the 200,000.
Okay.
So I had 200,000 from that, and then so I was figuring out in my mind how much something would cost.
Yeah.
If you're not a contractor and you don't really know, it's
Yeah.
funny. But I was figuring out. I called around to see what some of the properties were.
Yeah.
And then how much a foot would be, how much cost of square foot.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of gone back asking God for wisdom because He promised to give it to me. So I spent like 2 or 3 days trying to figure out how much it cost, and it's about $1 million for 12 properties, 12 units.
Yeah.
And so I had 200,000, and then one day out of the blue, this guy called, and he was from Colorado State Division of Housing. So he said he heard about our program, and he would like to come and visit me.
Yeah.
So I said yes. So he came, but I mostly took him around the 20 houses and showed him around how the people that were living there and so forth. I told him that I had $200,000 that I could build this units here, but I only had $200,000. So then he came, and he sat down in my office, and he called John Parvinsky, which is part of Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. And he said, that I don't know how much you gave him, $5 million or something I gave you for the Lowry project. I think I want you to give $300,000 of it to Colorado homeless families. I want you to send him a check for $300,000. So I had $200,000 from Jefferson County. And then I had $300,000 from the Lowry Fund. That the State Division of Housing gave John Parvinsky. He was over Colorado Coalition of the Homeless.
And it was the Lowry project. So they were cleaning up the Lowry project, right? Where they were building houses there? And where did the money come from? Do you know?
I think it came from the federal government. I think they got a big federal grant.
Paid
to do that. And they probably issued it to the state, and so they have all this call of homelessness, so they're looking around checking out the nonprofits.
Trying to figure out where to funnel the
put
money.
It. Yeah, they have to make sure it's being used.
It's nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had $200 from Jeffco and $300,000 from the Lowry project with the Division of Housing.
And then what he did, this is the same guy that called up John. I didn't know him. I only met him that one day, but I used to have a better memory. At the same time, he called Chaffa, and he said, the monies that you have in the Chaffa, I want you to go ahead and give them that money they need. So they sent me out some papers, and then I filled it out. It was for buying, but it was a special loan, and so you get more of a discount, interest rate. So he just called and told him to do that for me. This guy comes in and then calls people. It's a miracle how God sent people in. He just called them and said she's going to apply for it. I want you to give her what she needs.
That's great.
For this money. And then, so Arvada Housing. The one with Ed Talbot. He gave me $50,000 for that to build on that project.
And we will call it an evening. How's that?